So it's a question that many people would want an answer to. Obviously, like Enneagram is all about trying to find your own type, even typing other people. But self-typing is basically what is required for you to enter your journey of growth. So today I'm going to try to break down what are the ways for you to actually find your type. It's not going to be a hyper-specific guide, me explaining every single bit of information for you, but it's going to be me breaking down some of the points that are necessary for you to understand and grasp before you try to undertake the challenge that is self-typing for so many people. The fundamentals of Enneagram type, which consist of the passion. And the reason why you see so many people maybe struggling with typing, even typing people, typing characters, misunderstand types, is because on a fundamental level, they don't even understand the passion of the type. They don't know how it actually works and how it's supposed to manifest. Because of that, then they misunderstand the type as a whole. Now, passion, to put it simply, is your emotional drive. It is the emotional compulsion of the type. It is the true foundation of everything that you do, the drive behind your personality. So once you find your passion, that's a step number one. Passions are often unconscious. Some might be like, oh, they can be conscious. Some will say that they're always unconscious. But don't be surprised that you will not be able to find this conscious experience of your own passion. It might not happen. That's why behaviors can be useful, because behaviors can be consequences of your passions. Your passion creates certain drives. Your passion drives you to behave a certain way, to do something specific. Can be reflected in behaviors, but even that can be completely misunderstood. A second one is going to be understanding the fixation. If passion is an emotional drive, the fixation is basically, in a sense, a mental trap. It is a certain, and I call it a mental trap specifically because, in a sense, that's what it is. It is a set of beliefs, worldviews. Again, it's more mental. It's not an emotional, it's mental. And it basically works as a way to reinforce your passion. So passion and then fixation works in conjunction. That's why I talked about when it comes to the Enneagram, for example. It's someone who might feel deficient because they will look at someone, they might feel jealous that they're not doing as good as they are. And then they simply confirm those feelings and thoughts that, hey, it makes sense because I am really broken. Look at this, I am lacking in those qualities. So of course I am shit. And of course I feel like shit. It just simply creates a cycle. So the true growth is to break this cycle. Now, defense mechanisms are really useful, actually, because obviously every type has different defense mechanisms. In fact, it is sometimes so that a type can have actually two defense mechanisms. People might not know this, but it is true. When it comes to the psychology behind it, stuff like reaction formation, denial, oppression, projection, those are just human defense mechanisms. And even if you're one of the numbers, it is very likely, if you experience trauma or whatever, you might actually have those defense mechanisms, even without being that type. It is like the primary way that defines your way of defending yourself, right? Ask yourself this question: where does this defense mechanism come from? So you understand why one has reaction formation, 8 has denial. Sure, cool. Why do they have this defense mechanism? Because it's not enough to think, okay, they do have this. It's cool. But just knowing this is not going to allow you to type properly, because obviously defense mechanisms are called defense mechanisms for a reason. They are rooted in something. They come as a way to defend the host from traumatic experiences. To have an understanding of on a more practical level, you need to understand how it might manifest. You understand the why, the when, right? And the how. Once you understand all of those things, you're good to fucking go, to move forward. Now, behaviors are a double-edged sword. They can be very good and very useful, right? Incredibly so. Or they can be a complete fucking detriment. With behaviors, there are many situations where you will be able to type people correctly. Like the result has been given, but you haven't truly understood the essence of the type. You haven't truly understood the type, why it's doing what it's doing. You just typed it, this person or this character, something because of its traits. In many ways, obviously not every character is so fleshed out. You can get away with it because it's all behavioral garbage. Multiple people can share the same behavior for different reasons. So that's already creating a problem. So if you see, for example, you have a 1 core and this 1 core can be aggressive. You have an 8 core and we know the 8 core can be aggressive. Okay, so if you just look at it, this person is aggressive. You will perceive both aggressiveness as the same exact thing because you're looking at the trait, right? The truth is that, yes, it seems that they are aggressive because they showcase the same behavior. Why? Where does this come from? What is the aggression supposed to do? Now with the Enneagram 8, this aggression, this punitive behavior, it is supposed to be a consequence of passion, lust, right? So that is why it's happening. And why this is happening is because it's reinforcing the ideas about their own invulnerability. This aggression gives pleasure. This aggression elevates your own egoism and elevates your own dominance, which then further pushes you away from any vulnerability. It's at the end of the day aggression to experience triumph. That only reinforces the self, its narcissism, and again, the egoic pleasures. All of that is supposed to reinforce invulnerability. Because when you associate yourself with power and dominance rather than weakness and passivity, now with the 1 core you have same behavior, it's aggression. But it comes from a very different place. It's not an aggression to feel pleasure. It's not an aggression just for the point of dominance and just to feel it. Right? So it reinforces invulnerability. It's actually not related to it at all. The aggression of the 1 core is related to, again, the anger at the world. The world is imperfect and it needs to be corrected. So that's how aggression might manifest. Someone correcting you very strongly. Belief that the world has to have an order that they will impose on the world around them. And they cannot tolerate those feelings of imperfection. Causes frustration, causes anger and aggression. Boom. So we compare 2 behaviors that are exactly the same on paper, but when you look deeper, you understood the reason why, which it seems to me in Enneagram and typology, people really don't ask why. There are traits that are distinctive. There are traits that even per Naranjo's own distinctions can be very helpful when trying to understand the differences between types. So with 8 and 1, they actually share quite a bit in common. But there is a trait that will work. And this trait is related to one's amorality and one's hypercivility. That's the distinction. One is opposing the moral and moral conventional principles of society that are being placed on them, right? Not having any issues with associating themselves with what is considered bad. And the other is a hyper-civilized character who could not stand being perceived as bad, who could not stand corruptedness and again, this uncivilized anti-societal approach. The 8 is antisocial, and that's the distinction. So now let's look at 2 and 4. We have very relational people. They're both about love. We've seen this mistype so many times. How many people thought, oh, am I a sexual 2? Am I a sexual 4? Now, what is the true distinction? You can go into details. The truth is, at the end of the day, the 2 core is a pleasure-seeking, humorous, very, again, positivistic, vibrant personality. Simple as that. There is no such thing as a sexual 2 or a 2 core, social 2, whatever the fuck, that's grumpy, just lacking those qualities. It's not a thing. 4, on the other hand, is in this way. The 4 is much more melancholic. It's not again, very upbeat, very positivistic, pleasure-seeking, pleasure-oriented character. So that already is a big distinction. Okay, and if I was to tell someone, oh, are you a 2, are you a 4? That's what I would pay attention to, because that trait in my eyes is so visible because it's about the external presentation, and it is indeed true to both types, right? So there's that. Then we also have 2 and 8. The sexual 8 and the sexual 2, or the social 2 and the social 8. You'll see those kind of relationships there. You can say that they're both impulsive, they're all both kind of like demanding, they're both aggressive, anti-intellectual, they're both crazy, intense, right? And sure, if you just focus on those traits, you will mistype. because you are talking about traits that are shared by both types. And what is the true distinction? Both can be loud, both can be angry, that's fine. But what is the true distinction? The true distinction lies in the fact that the 8, what they do is they reinforce their own invulnerability. And that's it. You pressure them, they're put in a situation where something happens, they reinforce their idea of being invulnerable. The 2 core doesn't do that. In fact, that they will actually use blame and use manipulation to counter those things. A lot of I did this for you, I loved you, how could you do this to me? It's a very emotional aspect. The 8 is a hardened type. Every single 8 rejected love early on. Every single 8 is hard inside. Every single 8 is unsentimental. And that's such a big difference and big distinction. If we use this distinction, someone like Tupac would not be an 8 core ever. He'd never be an 8 core. Because he never had an issue with love. He never had an issue with unsentimentality. The guy was always very, very emotional. Very in touch with his emotionality, femininity, those feelings, those sentiments, those sentimentalities, love, and was able to express it. This is not for the 8. This is not for the 8. Lastly, childhood. Okay? Childhood and its patterns. Childhood and its wounds. Childhood plays a very important part. And not in the way you might think. It's not about, oh, you had the specific, the father touched you this fucking way, and that's why you are the way you are. That's not the fucking point of that. Okay? Every person perceives injustices a certain way. Every person perceives bad things happening to them a certain way. A very different way. So it depends on that. Every person has a different perceptions of what they went through. That's what we are looking for. What your experience was like, and how did you perceive your experience to be like? How did that shift? How did that develop your further perspectives? How did that develop further and further? I had an 8 childhood, someone says, because yes, I was also beaten, humiliated, butchered, abused. That, and that's not an 8 childhood. An 8 childhood is very specific because of the person who is an 8 perceives it a very specific way. There's a transformation that happens. There's a denial of sensitivity, denial of love, and anything that's related to soft emotionality. That is what makes the 8 childhood. It's not just because you were beaten, humiliated, fed like a fucking dog, doesn't make you that kind of fucking personality. What's the progression of your defense mechanisms? What's the progression of who you really are? If you understand every point I just said, you have such a holistic, global understanding of the system. Now it's time to sit down and actually apply it. How do we apply it? Do you just think about your life? No. Do you write a questionnaire? Also no. You write an autobiography, and you're gonna sit the down and you're gonna write 20 to 30 pages, font fucking 13, and that's what's gonna happen. If anyone comes and says, hey, Russ, listen, 20, 30 pages, how the can I write that much about myself and everything? This is my response. If you are unable to write 20 to 30 pages of your life, it means you shouldn't even be using Enneagram or any typology. Grow the up and only then use Enneagram. How it's supposed to look like, because people might be like, okay, the autobiography, how are we supposed to approach it? It's fucking simple. Keep it simple, right? Start from the fucking beginning. Start from your earliest thoughts. This shit doesn't have to be structured, fucking crazy. No, it has to just simply develop like a story forward. That's it. Start from your earliest memories. Again, anything you can remember. Start about your parents, how your parents were like, how your parents are like, right? Their personalities, their relationship with themselves, their relationship with you at that specific time. How did you feel? What did you like? Why did you like it? Your school experiences, everything. But you don't want to just talk about something that happened. You want to talk about what happened and what you thought in that moment. You want to talk about what happened and what you felt that moment. It is all connected. Your friendships, your relationships, your intimate relationships. Get into that. Go in depth. Again, it's about seeing your mind. It's about seeing your mind. And it's okay because your mind has changed. Your mindset has changed. And you can even mention that. You thought about it that way. What's your reflection about that shit, right? What do you think about that now as a fucking grown person? Talk about your work experiences. All of that, the patterns will be seen. Now, some people will be like, which I've seen, let's feed this shit, this autobiography to a bot. ChatGPT. Let ChatGPT type me. Now, I do not support this idea, generally speaking, because first of all, fucking using ChatGPT to type, I think, yes, it's not to say if you feed it the right information, you might not get the right answers. You will. You will. And then you will not. And then you're gonna get such bad answers, it's gonna honestly make you scratch your head how the bot came to that conclusion. So it's completely unreliable, and the reason why using a bot for Enneagram is unreliable because of one fundamental truth of Enneagram. Enneagram is one of the most intuitive systems. The truth is, a bot cannot look at your autobiography and attempt to look at it so holistically, connect all the pieces on its own, based on its own interpretation, to type you. It will fixate on specific keywords, it will fixate on specific things to type you. But only a human, only a person can take such an intuitive outlook on the whole holistic idea of a person. That's the truth. That's the reality. Socionics is about ground rules. Socionics is about a structure. Socionics is about dichotomies. You can use this very methodical, structured approach to type you. Type yourself. Type someone. It works. Now, what I did personally with my own autobiography is I fed it to Grok. Grok is, again, some AI. The reason why I used it, I was recommended this shit by someone on my server. It went deeper. It goes much more in depth. I prefer that. And instead of asking, hey, type me, I wasn't fucking interested in that shit. I was more interested in a psychological profile, a psychological breakdown of this individual, of this narrator, using the psychodynamic theory. And I would suggest you, if you do that, if you take your autobiography, I would suggest you don't fixate as much on let bots type you, but tell it to create a psychological profile using the psychodynamic theory. It's a proper theory that's been developed, and there's so many fucking sources to take from all over the web. So the AI bot can easily do that. To me, it was the most beneficial. It outlined exactly how those behaviors, how things happen, how it affected the names for it, everything. It was a beautiful breakdown. And personally, for me, as someone who, it's hard to identify with trauma, it's hard to, to really, I could go through fucking hell, and I would feel like I'm not traumatized. People might think, this is so cool, It's not fucking cool. It's annoying when you're actually trying to understand yourself. It's very annoying because you're in denial of your own conditions. You're in denial of your own fucking issues because, well, you don't feel bad, so why would you have this X, Y, and Z? But when you get slapped with a whole breakdown of your psychological profile, trust me, that shit, as a third person, as an observer, because it's you're gonna read it like almost like you're reading someone else's biography. It will change the way you think. So for me, it was very beneficial because I was able to really accept it for what it was. Like, holy I'm cooked. And the last thing I want to point out about Enneagram is that it's a jerk-off. That's how I view most Enneagram typology users, jerk-offs. And I hope you are not a jerk-off. You know this system for 3 years and you haven't improved in a big way, you should go yourself, is what I think. That shit should not be acceptable. If you're here because Enneagram's just a cool label, it's just cool labels, it's just funny traits, it's just who I am, it's quirky traits, you're completely missing the point of Enneagram. Enneagram is psychology. Psychology is serious. We should start maybe treating it a bit more seriously. Again, guys, approach this topic with utter seriousness, because this can help you develop yourself to understand your traumas, understand your life. And I don't think it's a joking matter in any way, shape, or form. So I'm out, I'm Charles, and I'm bouncing.